Welcome to Missing Briefs, where we unveil the untold business stories of lawyer triumphs and trials. I'm Dominic Grew, the founder and the owner of Elevate Business Coaching, a Boston-based business coaching and consulting firm that specializes in teaching law firm owners and their lawyers how to build, manage, and grow successful practices.
And I'm Bob Furlong. I'm a certified exit planner. I work around the country with professionals and specializing with attorneys doing their personal and business planning. And I do a lot of work in attracting and retaining associates. So those people that own law firms don't have to work all the time.
So, Missing Briefs, what's it all about? Well, it's about exploring and telling the compelling stories or briefs of lawyers who have experienced significant challenges and successes in the business of law. What was their gap? What were they missing? What is it that they wished that they had known? Well, it's our pleasure today to welcome Rob Withrow. Rob is a Massachusetts family law attorney and co-founder of Bob Withrow. He's built a reputation for taking on the kinds of contentious, high-stakes matters that demand real courtroom grit. Based in Medfield, Massachusetts, and serving clients across Greater Boston, Rob brings a sharp legal mind, a steady presence, and a willingness to litigate when that's what justice requires. He's also known for digging into complex disputes, preparing cases with precision, and standing firmly beside his clients, whether a matter resolves at the negotiating table or goes the full distance in court. He also happens to be the wittiest family law attorney that I know. Rob, how are you doing today?
If I were any better, I'd be you, Dom. How are you?
See, I like it. I'm good, thanks.
So, Rob, let's go back in time and think back to the point in your life that you decided to become an attorney. What was that all about, and what were you thinking?
Great question. I asked myself that all throughout law school, but I went to Boston College for my undergrad, and I worked in human resources all 4 years. And that was, let's see, I graduated Boston College in 2008, which, as you may recall, was not the greatest time to be looking for a job. So much like it seems like half the class of 2008, I decided I should go to law school. I had worked with a couple of attorneys in human resources. They were fantastic professionals. I really loved my experience there. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to law school and I'll practice in family or in employment law, rather. That's the path for me. I would love to work in human resources in-house, either at a university or a company. And so that was the trajectory that I had set out on when I went to law school.
That's interesting, and we now all know that you work in family law, which is an interesting part of. We want to hear more about that. Not too much, but more. How did you gravitate there from employment over to family law, which is so markedly different? Because I think there's a lot of folks out there that think that attorneys just they're like a jack of all trades, but in reality, most attorneys focus on one area of the law. How did you pick this area of the law?
And most of the best attorneys certainly focus on one area of the law. And I really fell into it. I graduated in 2011, and much like 2008, still not a great time to be looking for a job. And so I started working for a firm that did family law. I didn't even take a family law course when I was in law school. I, like most people, thought, who would ever want to work in this area? There's just too many feelings flying around. This is going to be such an awful life. And then once I started working in family law, I found it to be incredibly rewarding. So you get to know your clients on a completely different level than in other areas. You're dealing with their past, present, and future. You're not focusing on a business transaction or a car accident, or just, a small portion of someone's life. You're dealing with their entire existence, and the level that you get to know your clients at, and just the relationship that you develop with them, I found to be incredibly rewarding, and especially in family law. In my particular practice, I work with a lot of families with young kids, and to take this family and put them in a better position at the end of their case than they were when they met with me. It's just an incredible area. But most attorneys who I network with will say, I don't know how you practice
Yeah.
this area. I don't know how anyone does anything else. I've practiced in a number of different areas, and this is by far the most rewarding for me.
Well, we can tell that you love what you do when you say something like, I don't know how anybody does anything else other than this. I think that's pretty telling.
Yeah, Rob. I mean, you could be a salesperson for, come practice family law. You obviously no, but seriously, it's interesting how you talk about it and leaving folks in a better situation for, when they come through the door. And that other thing about the past, the present, and the future. You get to know your clients, really intimately, and I like the way you positioned it. Maybe I should have been a family lawyer. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I want to switch gears a little bit and just talk about this podcast is for folks that are they want to learn from people that have taken the plunge, launched their own practices, etc. So I'm curious for you if you could talk just a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced in the early years of when you were building and starting your practice.
absolutely. One of the things that we did when we first started our practice was we started working with a business coach right away because there are a lot of people who are out there who can help fix broken law firms and not a
Mhm.
lot of folks out there who will help you get off on the right foot and avoid some of those pitfalls. So we were able to connect with a business coach early on to help us get systems in place that would set us up for success. But the biggest advice, especially for family law attorneys, that I would give is there are a lot of family law attorneys who are passionate about their clients, passionate about the cases, and when you're working in a firm, you're not really focused on the finances of a case as much as you are when you're running your own business. And it's very easy to get caught up in the facts of a case, and you know that you can effectuate a good result, and that if you are not involved, this case might not get as good a result, and it might not be as good a result for this family. So you stay in a case past the point where they can really afford to keep you on board, and you can really get out over your skis and get a good result for a family, but a bad result for yourself and a bad
Mm,
result for your business. And so that was the hardest lesson that I had to learn, was that I had to step away from some cases where I know I would be able to help and to do a good job in those cases, but to value my own time and my own services and prioritize that.
mm.
How big of a challenge was it for you going from working in a firm to becoming like an owner, a part owner in a business? Talk a little bit about that. How big of a stretch was that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started out, I timed it up really beautifully. It was just a month after the birth of my third child. So
Mm.
right after she was born, we started out the business, but I don't think there is a perfect time to start your business. It's
Yeah,
really whenever you're feeling confident that you can take on that load and you can handle the work, um, and you can handle what it takes to run a business. So I was very lucky that I had a really supportive firm that I was coming from, and
yeah.
they had encouraged me and challenged me um, to take on more difficult cases, to build my own caseload, to get out there and network with people, and really to develop my own book of business, so that when I was starting the business, I was able to take all of those clients, and they were incredible. There were no issues in taking those clients to my own firm because they had really helped me build my own caseload. And so I was fortunate that they had pushed me out of my comfort zone, encouraged me to learn all different areas. Like I took on restraining order hearings. I
Mm.
took a case to the appeals court. I had done DCF fair hearings, um, and coming out of law school, I did not feel like I wanted to do litigation, and they really pushed me um, and provided a safety net where I felt
Mhm.
comfortable to take on these
Yeah,
challenges.
yeah. So what I'm kind of hearing, if I'm to summarize and play that back, you mentioned, you launched your own firm just when you were having your third kid, and I think you said there's never a good time to do it for. So for all those people that are out there listening to this, think, God, I wonder if I could ever start my firm. Rob Withrow has said it. There's never a good time, but you also said that you had to feel some level of confidence. And actually, it sounds like at the firm that you'd worked in, you had been pushed out of your comfort zone a little bit, and in some respects, you'd already built your craft and your confidence in there, being and that actually really prepared you. So it's not like starting everything is from you. You've been prepared for it. within
Absolutely.
different firms.
And they were
Yeah.
incredibly generous with their time, and
Yeah.
they're still, some of the smartest attorneys who I've ever worked with. Um, and so they were incredibly generous with their knowledge as well, and pushed me to bring in my own clients and the develop the practice really before I even started the firm.
Yeah. So again, for folks listening, even if you're in a firm, get busy developing your own practice and building your competencies. Because again, if you do decide to go out on your own, it's great to have already practiced and drilled this in a little bit of a safer environment. I'll put it that way. Great. Thanks, Rob.
That's great. So Rob, you run this business, this practice. You've been an attorney for a number of years. You love what you do, and you do very important work. When down the road, when you decide to retire, hang up your cleats and enjoy what you've built, how do you want to be remembered as an attorney?
It's a great question. I would say that I want to be remembered as an effective, an effective, compassionate, reasonable attorney. And that really, I took an MCLE course, and Judge Meno talked about this longtime family law practitioner as a gentleman of the bar, and seemed like someone who everyone would want to have a case with. I want to be remembered as someone who, when opposing counsel saw that I was on the other side of the case, they breathed a sigh of relief because they knew that I wasn't going to make things worse, that I would be easy to work with, and I'd be able to help the family. Because even though you have, an opposing party in a family law case, it's still one family that you're trying to help make into two successful families. We're not trying to hurt anyone. We're trying to help everyone succeed. And I think sometimes just in the contentiousness of family law litigation, attorneys can lose sight of that.
That's really great. I can tell that really comes from the heart. And, I'm sure there are people out there that it runs through their mind, or they're going through conflict, or they've considered their options and are unsure and maybe want to talk to you. How do you start that conversation, and how should they reach out to you?
Yeah, I find that an email introduction is the most effective. So just an email introduction to me at rwithrow@mulhallwithrow.com. And I'll take it from there and say, happy to jump on a phone call or a Zoom, for an initial consult, and we'll see if this is a good fit and how you might be able to move forward.
That's great.
Rob Withrow, gentleman of the bar, and you are a gentleman because we've worked together and I know you well. Thanks for coming with us today. Thanks for explaining a little bit about your journey, how you've gotten to where you are, and also sharing some of that advice for other people that might be thinking, well, maybe one day they'd like to step out on their own and start their own firm. So thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Great to see you, Rob.
Great to see you.
So you've been listening to Missing Briefs, where we unveil the untold business stories of lawyer triumphs and trials. If you have an interesting story to tell about your own triumphs and trials in owning a law firm, or perhaps you know someone else that does, get in touch with us. I'm Dominic Grew.
And I'm Bob Furlong.
Until we meet again.